terms of interviews, we all differ in terms of our interview style. Again, it's all based on what predicts success in the applicants that we sit for interview. Varies between panel-based and multi-mini station interview. Multi-mini station interview is like horrible speed dating. You'll have a number of sort of tables which you will have questions asked of you on usually different subjects at each particular table. Sometimes there are rest stations. Between the two, there are sort of practical assessments which might sort of be the bridging gap in terms of you'll be asked a lot of questions, but it will also include practical elements which a multi-mini station interview will ask as well. That said, whether you're interviewed at panel-based or multi-mini station, the only real difference in questions or the types of things that you can expect is that in all likelihood, a panel-based interview isn't probably going to have practical elements, whereas obviously a practical and multi-mini station interview are probably going to lend themselves a bit more towards that. So it's extremely likely that no matter what interview you're going to sit, you're going to be asked about your work experience, and we're not going to expect you to parrot fashion your personal statement. This is your opportunity to show us how passionate you are, to show us how dedicated you are, to show us that you are an independent learner. So be prepared for that question. You can practice it with members of staff at your school or college, careers advisors, teachers, etc. But also your friends. If you can sit an interview with your friend, then without cracking up as well and being serious, you probably stand in good stead to do well at interview. We're going to push you very hard in terms of what you've learnt from your work experience, essentially till you don't have an answer. That's not because we want to be nasty, we just want to see how much you've made of those work opportunities through your work experience. Have you been the student who's asking questions, reading around the subject, or have you been the minority of students who, just doing it to tick it off the list, so making the cups of tea, not asking questions, not being enthused and not making the most of it. Veterinary medicine is littered with ethical dilemmas, especially the sort of testing on animals, the difference between companion and production animals. So you're probably going to get an ethical question. We're absolutely fine that you have a particular viewpoint on any ethical situation, but we also expect you to show empathy to the other side of the coin, as it were. So within veterinary medicine, you're going to have to show empathy and speak on a level that the owners coming into your practice can understand. So you need to be able to understand where they're coming from, as well as having your own independent views on particular situations and reach a reasoned conclusion. If you can draw on work experience and things that you've seen and done, then absolutely fantastic. In terms of multi-mini station, you might be asked sort of calculation or shown a scientific paper, which there'll be questions related to. So it's about applying your knowledge to a particular situation. Veterinary medicine, it's not, when you're working in veterinary medicine, it's not a case of, there's routine days. You have the knowledge that you have to apply to each situation that you find yourself in. A routine check might develop into something that's not that routine, so it might go into emergency situation, for example. In terms of practical sort of questions that you might be asked, you might be given something, not a photo, you might have an actual skeleton in front of you. So anyone brave enough to shout out what you think this skeleton could well be? Sitting down, it's probably about a bit taller than me. Is that? Any questions? Oh, sorry, any questions? Any guesses? Polar bear. Polar bear. Okay, any other ones on that? No? Why are you thinking it's a polar bear? Okay, but what if you hadn't seen it before? What are you looking at that's telling you?
Its height, teeth.
Okay, so yeah, you're looking at the things that you might have observed in terms of placements. You might have worked with sheep, for example, which is often something that someone shouts out. It's not sheep because it's got teeth on its upper jaw, so that narrows that down. You might not be able to get to that actual example, and we wouldn't actually use the polar bear, which is why I've included it in the presentation. But you're, again, applying your knowledge. Right, what have I worked with? The size will rule out dogs, cats, and most companion animals. Look at the teeth, look at the eyes. With this, you can't see it, but whether it's got hoofs, claws, etc. Applying your knowledge to particular situations. You might get prioritization or case studies. So again, it's about applying your knowledge to particular situations, using the experience that you've learnt from your placement. And as I've hopefully got across throughout the whole presentation, We're looking for committed, dedicated students with a passion for veterinary medicine and an understanding of the profession with fantastic communication skills. Communication is vital in veterinary medicine. As I'm sure you're aware, there's no NHS for animals, so the patients coming in are being brought in by owners and they're the ones who are going to have to pay the bills. If they're not happy with you treating their pet or their animal, why is that? You need to be very professional, talk at a level that they understand, not condescending, not confusing them, because if you are approachable and professional, then they're going to come back to you to treat their future pets or that current pet again. I'll skip over offers quickly. In terms of offers, you'll be waiting a long time usually with veterinary medicine applications. You'll be applying on October 15th. You might not hear till sort of after late November, which for a lot of schools, or for the 2 schools who asked for BMAT, we can't progress your application any faster because we need to look at your UCAS application, we need to look at your BMAT score, then we'll start scheduling interviews. Some universities have a gathered approach, which means they don't make offers until they've seen all of the students that they want to interview. So that might mean you apply in October, you get an interview in March, you hear late March, April time. If you're ever concerned that your application's been lost or whatever, contact the school and just make sure, just want to check that everything's okay with my application.